Everybody, good afternoon. This is our last Reaching Forward Fridays webinar. My name is Heidi Knuth. I'm chair of the Reaching Forward Committee. And we're so to have Shoshana Frank and Becky Powers from Naperville Public Library here to talk to us about Programming 101. Shoshana creates a wide array of adult and job search programs and promotes library services through promotional programs, outreach, everyday conversations. Becky has a career in retail and does a lot of fantastic work with craft programs, visual merchandising, and library-wide classes. Thank you so much for being with us today and welcome.
Thanks for the great introduction and for having us. We are so excited to talk about program planning.
Yes, so everybody, I am Becky Powers, and I work for the Naperville Public Library and Adult Services. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, let's just talk about what we want to accomplish today. So our learning outcomes for today, we want you to be able to create programs with confidence, promote library services to the community through adult programming, and replicate successful programs with any size of the library. So during our presentation today, we are going to have some breakouts, and we'll be asking you to participate via chat. And let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I have been with the library for almost 4 years now. Before entering the library world, I worked in retail for 18 years. Yes, 18 long years, and I'm so happy to be at the library now. But all kidding aside, it really gave me all sorts of creative knowledge as far as display and visual merchandising, and that has really translated for me into creating a lot of craft programs with the library. When I first started with the library, I never imagined I'd be doing any programming. I really just kind of thought that was just for librarians. But as time went on and I got more comfortable in my role, I sort of noticed that one of my coworkers was doing a lot of craft programming, and I thought to myself, I can definitely do that. So I started kind of suggesting to my coworkers that I'd like to maybe do a craft program, and I have some ideas, and eventually I was able to start helping out with the programming. I got the opportunity to lead some myself, and they were a huge success, and I had so much fun. And I just had to continue doing more. So I'm very excited to share some of those programs with you today. And now Shoshana is going to share a little bit about herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Shoshana Frank. I also started at the Naperville Public Library about 4 years ago. I started as an associate and I'm now a librarian. And interestingly enough, I did not learn anything about doing programming in library school. Really, everything that I know about programming and how I crafted this kind of niche for myself is with my background in event planning and logistics. And I literally attack library programs the same way I would attack a fundraiser for a nonprofit. So I am able to kind of look at things in a different way of sharing stuff that I'm interested in, my hobbies, as well as things that I think our residents might enjoy. So to give you a little bit of perspective on for our presentation, Naperville Public Library serves a community of about 150,000 residents. And Becky and I both work at different buildings. I work at a smaller building, NBL, which has about 1,200 to 1,400 visitors a day. And Becky works at NSL, which has about 1,400 to 1,500 visitors a day. Just so that you can get an idea when we're talking about these programs, where we're coming from in terms of population size, and that even though we come from a rather large library, any of these programs can absolutely be replicated in any size program as library.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is generating ideas. So obviously that's the first step of programming. And let's talk about where Shoshana and I get some of our ideas from. So first of all, popular trends. For me, I really make sure I pay attention to social media, such as Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram. I get a lot of my ideas from Pinterest, but I also get a lot of my ideas through Facebook groups, mom groups in Naperville. If people are, you know, looking for certain items or they want to replicate a certain item, I pay attention to that, and I try to turn that into a program with the library. Also, like something that's like really popular right now in the fashion world is tie-dye. So, I mean, just think about those things and how can you bring that as a program to your library. Another thing that we really pay attention to is new items coming into the library. So really paying attention to those nonfiction titles that are coming in. Recently, I have seen a lot of new books on Sharpie art, and that actually translated into a virtual program that I did just recently with Sharpie art mugs that was really popular through our Facebook page. But also there's been a lot of popular books on organizing your home and paper flower crafts. Also your non-library skills. So what do you do outside of the library that you really enjoy? And how do you turn those into programs? There's also a programming librarian newsletter from ALA that we recommend that you sign up for. And there's also a interest Facebook group that's really good as well to help generate ideas and also to problem solve.
So also with the To Programming Librarian newsletter, that the link for their website is on the screen. It is a great way to keep your finger on the pulse of what other libraries are doing. So often I'm thinking like, hey, I want to do something about space. And then I'll go onto the Programming Librarian site, I'll see what libraries have done in the past on that subject, and I'll think of ways that I can tailor it to something that I would want to do and something that I think our residents would enjoy doing.
For sure. So now we're going to do our first breakout, and this is where we need your feedback in our chat section here. So we're going to take about 1 minute, and we just want you to brainstorm your hobbies and interests and just put those right into the chat section. And I'm going to talk about them in just a minute here.
These are lots of really, really cool ideas, from reading to yarn crafts, painting, cooking. Wow, oh my word, I can't even keep up with it all. Outstanding.
All right, so we've got some really good ones in there. I'm seeing gardening a lot. I saw card making, which I like to do as well. So now the next thing that you would do with programming is you take your interest and you turn that into a program. So for me, I really enjoy home decor, and you'll see that in a lot of the programs that I do in the library. For instance, during this time of the stay-at-home order, I really tried to think of a program that people could easily do from home, a craft that they could easily create. And so when I was thinking about what I had at home, I had lots of cardboard boxes. I was doing a lot of online shopping. I had paper and I had ribbons. I took all of those and I decided to do a rolled paper flower wreath for a virtual program. And it turned out really great. I think that one had about 2,100 online views. So that was just like a simple home decor thing that I thought was super cute and easy to do from home. And you can actually see that video on our website as well.
So I'm not quite as polished in my crafting as Becky is. So I really kind of like more of the abstract, be really creative, and maybe it'll look like a masterpiece, maybe it'll look like trash. Either way, it's okay, and I had fun making it. So I went into our supply closet and looked at all the different kind of random leftover art supplies that we had from various programs over the years. I knew April was Stress Awareness Month, and I tossed all that into my magic pot and I stirred it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a magic pot. I wish I did. Instead, I tried to come up with how can I use all of these really random things into a program. And I created Art Therapy Night. You can see on the screen, I had 4 different stations that participants went to, and I had suggestions of what they could do with the materials at each station. But really what I was stressing, get that? No. Really what I was encouraging the participants to do was just take the materials, be creative, and most importantly, leave all their tension on the table and walk out happier. And I have to say, Art Therapy Night was a success, and people crafted things that I would never have come up with myself. So it was a really surprise success as well. So all of those hobbies that you talked about in the last breakout session, and now that you know kind of how Becky and I think about taking our hobbies to creating a program, spend the next 2 minutes quickly thinking about how you can take that hobby idea and turn it into a, when you have some ideas, similar to how I have it on the screen where it says like enjoy knitting equals beginner's finger knitting program, type that into the chat box so we can all see the different ideas. Oh, I like that. How to pick the best pet for your family. That's an awesome way to think about pets and bringing that into the library space. These are really great suggestions. I expect like people who are coming up with ways to make these virtual, since it will be probably more virtual programming in our future. There's a cool one, crafting, turning your poetry into a song. That's really neat.
I like the magazines into the woven baskets too. These are giving me some ideas as well. So this is wonderful.
You all are coming up with really great ideas. Make sure that you're writing them down so that you also have them for when we finish our session and you can carry on with your awesome programming. So I think we're gonna move on.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the logistics of programming. The first thing you need to come up with is an idea for how to brainstorm and how to generate those ideas. The next thing you really need to think about is cost per person to spend on supplies. So does your library have a guideline? How much can you spend per person? I know here at this location, we try to keep it about $2 to $3 per person at the maximum. Also, any budgetary restrictions. So maybe you don't even have a budget. So maybe you need to think about any free programming that you can do, anything with donated materials. Also, the day and the time. So who is your target audience? Are you looking for 20 to 30-year-olds? Maybe you'd want to do those at night. Is your target audience maybe a little bit older of an audience that's home during the day and they can come during the weekday? The other thing you want to keep in mind is the number of staff needed, not only the day of to help with the program, but also with prep work as well. I know some of the programs I have done have been very heavy in prep, and I've really needed to rely on other staff members to help me with them. Planning time to create a sample, to make instructions, the prep time, how much time do you need to get it into the newsletter and to marketing, and then just thinking of any other challenges you may have. So we are going to go to our next breakout, and we're going to take just a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about what are some of the challenges you might face as a new programmer. So if you want to put those in the chat, and then we'll talk about those a little bit.
I think a lot of people were talking about getting people to turn up, or if you're a trusted source of information. I've done a number of different kind of lecture-based information sharing programs, and I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people who turned up in person and then also watched it virtually. And I think libraries are really considered a good source of information, that we do a lot of research and we like to make sure we're presenting the facts as much as we can. But you're right, sometimes it is just a shot in the dark and you just hope for the best and that all your work pays off.
I'm seeing here too, like registration and having people show up. Yeah, I mean, that is the most difficult thing. We struggle with it here too. I mean, this library has been pretty successful with our virtual programming. Sometimes we may plan for a really, a handful of people. So some things that I've been working on is trying to do it at different times. So a weekend versus a weekday, or a night versus during the day as well.
I did like Mary's idea of asking for customer input to find out what they're actually interested in. Often when I have a really good turnout at a program, I do have them fill out surveys afterwards, asking for, like, what topics are you interested in? What hobbies do you have? Would you have any ideas about programs? And I have found that it's been really successful just asking, what are you interested in? At Naperville, we do plan our programs about 6 to 8 months in advance. So we are kind of have a longer lead time, but since we are a big library and we have lots of people working on programming, we have lots of different programs between children's, teens, and adults. So it is a crowded space trying to get your program further up on the bulletin board than others. And so I do think it's important to kind of think about your target audience and then making sure that you're reaching those people where they are, whether it's putting up posters in coffee shops or posting on Meetup, if you're looking for a younger audience, or if it's sharing things on different social media platforms that you might not have considered. But these were all really good challenges and things to consider and think about. So another aspect to consider when you are working on your ideas and programming is highlighting existing services in the library. Many libraries have huge amounts of technology and equipment that their residents really don't know about or even how to use. And holding programs to highlight these resources is a really great way to make what is often intimidating technology approachable. In the past, I've done all kinds of programs about connecting technology to art, using our 3D printer, VR goggles, different 3D scanning technology that we have at Naperville, to really help people understand what once was used with a chisel and stone, we can now print with plastic filament in an hour or two on our 3D printer. And it really makes things less obscure and more exciting. I've also done programs with our Silhouette Studio and Cameo Cutter, but you can use any Cameo or any Silhouette silhouette cutter, they're more computer skills, it also allows people to understand that they can make beautiful tote bags and vases and all kinds of different paper crafts, from cards to dimensional flowers, and free, that they can use right there at the library. So that's something that is also another really cool thing. If you're not as comfortable with technology, this is a great opportunity to collaborate with other people in other departments, other colleagues in the library, people who may be more tech focused, but maybe aren't as comfortable running a program. So this is a great way to work together to showcase what the library already has to offer. You can also highlight more advanced equipment like an embroidery machine, sewing machine, or a sound recording studio. I know I personally am not very comfortable with our sound recording studio, but I have worked with people in our digital services department in order to put together a program to talk about what it offers and how to use it for podcasting and other things. You can focus any of these programs on things that you might have in your makerspace already available, technology, and also don't forget about your downloadable tools like Libby, Hoopla, and Access 360. For many customers, those types of ebooks and e-audiobooks are really intimidating, and having a library staff member walk them through how to use it opens a wide door for more reading, especially given the social distancing times that we're in. And that also goes double for any digital subscriptions that your library has, whether they're databases that are research focused or newspaper focused. There's so many different ways that you can bring the library to everyone's home using our digital aspects. So with that in mind, for our breakout number 4, for the next minute, consider what things you have in your library already that could be highlighted and used for a program. And then for bonus, consider who you might collaborate with on those programs. And oh, you can share it in the chat. Sorry, I almost forgot that bit. Creative Bug is a great resource. Yes, I definitely think 3D printers can sometimes be underused because they are intimidating. You feel like you have to know so many things to use it. But once you figure it out, it's super cool.
And also with the 3D printer, I know I've done a program, and I will talk about it coming up here, where we utilize the 3D printer as part of the craft.
Nice. I don't even know what a watercolor bot is, so that would be really cool to do a program on. I'm gonna come. No. Awesome. Well, I know this one's a harder one. Ooh, board game collections. Nice. Green screen photo shoots are always a big hit. Absolutely. Great idea. Especially like holiday cards. Mm-hmm. Those never look perfect. Green screen might help with that one. Awesome ideas. I love it.
Okay, so now for the fun part, we're going to talk about programs that you can bring back to your library. And I believe you were all emailed a document with all of these programs for you, with the supplies and the instructions. We're just going to talk about a few that we have done here in our libraries. So the first one that I'm going to highlight here is our folded book art. So with the folded book art, when I was thinking about my target audience, I wasn't necessarily thinking about a certain age group, but I was just thinking about those who may be interested in creating home decor for themselves or for a gift. We did do this right around the holidays, and we did do this during a weekday morning, and had a fairly good turnout. As far as the scale for this particular program, because the cost was next to zero, we had donated books. We already had black cardstock on hand. This is the one where I did use the 3D printer to allow everybody to have a topper for the top of their book. And I utilized our digital services department to help me with that. But we had all the supplies on hand. So there was maybe a little bit of cost when it came to the 3D printer, but we had all of those materials. What was nice about this program is I was able to open it up to 50 people. So this one is very easy to be able to do large scale. It does take some prep work because you do need to cut out the cardstock silhouettes beforehand. But what I really wanted everybody to learn from this was about the different services that we have at the library, specifically the 3D printer, like I said, and also the Cameo silhouette. So again, I had cut out all of the silhouettes beforehand, and it was easy for customers to be able to come in and replicate this on their own as well. And I wanted them to know, yes, you can come to the library and make really cute home decor and give gifts. So this was a really successful one. I have done this program probably 3 times now, and people keep asking for it. And it's really good for all ages.
Awesome. Awesome. So the link to the handout is in the chat as well. So I did an upcycled book program. I was really trying to kind of go for a broad audience from their 20s all the way to their 50s. I did have it in the evening because I did want it for that after work crowd. So I was really kind of lucky. The library got a huge donation of mass market paperback books that were not in a condition that could be added to the collection, but were in perfect condition for upcycled crafting. So I used those books in order to create this program. So the supply was very low. I only had to purchase orange ink and the ribbon for the pumpkin. The sticks I collected from my backyard and let them dry out and then cut down to size. And we already had the hot glue and glue guns on hand. That's why the cost was so low. This was a program that's very malleable to the scale of the attendees. I did it a number of different times, and I started out with 10 people, then I upped it to 25 due to demand. Then I ended up having 32 people come to the program, and luckily I had enough supplies, but everyone had to share a lot of glue guns, but it was okay. Then when I held it again, there were 15, and so on and so forth. So you can see it was very easy to adjust what I needed to do. Really what I wanted the participants to learn was that they could use found objects in different ways, that a book didn't always have to be a book, and the written words on the page could be intricate in another aspect of decor, and that you can just go out to your backyard or on a trail where it's appropriate to pick up sticks and use those in your home decor or in your crafting. And I do think people got that from the program, because I've seen a number of these pumpkins pop up every year when people share pictures and tag the library in it.
Okay, so another program that I've done that was super successful was a DIY spa day. Not only have I done this in the library, but I've also done this as a virtual program just recently. So my target audience for this, again, I wasn't looking for any specifics, anybody looking to pamper themselves a little bit. The time frame for this one, again, was a weekday afternoon. As far as the scale of attendees, this one was a little bit more expensive, and that was because we had to buy the glass jars, we had to buy some socks, So this one was more about $5 per person, but we did keep the group really small because we kind of wanted to have an intimate setting, kind of like what you would have at a spa day. You probably wouldn't be at the spa with 50 other people, but about 10 was about right for us. And what I wanted people to learn from this one is you can easily make products at home. We also did this one around the holidays, and so we gave the participants a homemade gift idea as well. You can tie a little ribbon around it. We made little gift tags as well, and I just think it was a good break for people just to kind of come in here and relax. And when we did it virtually, you know, everybody's a little stressed out right now. So we just wanted to give people, again, an opportunity to kind of create something for themselves and sort of relax a little bit.
Nice. So, sorry, I just lost my place. I did an upcycle vinyl record program this last fall, and I was trying to go for a little bit of a younger audience. So I was gearing it really towards 20s to 40s, and I am happy to say I was pretty successful. About half the group was in the target age range. As many of you know, getting 20s and 30-year-olds into the library can be a challenge, but it's a challenge worth fighting for. Again, I had it in the evening for after work, and the scale also was pretty flexible. The supply cost was really only about $1 per person. Similar to the mass market paperback donation, we had gotten a donation of about 100 vinyl records. Naperville does not have a vinyl record collection, so we really were uncertain of what to do with this collection that someone had given us. So it sat around for a while until I finally got that idea to percolate of we could use the records as a painting canvas. So instead of using a canvas where I'd have to buy it, and those are pretty expensive, we would use the records instead. So we, used our existing paint brushes, hot glue, and glue guns to create really unique art. Every single person that came to the program and left had a completely different image on their record. Many of them did use the hot glue to create like a puff paint look. Others just painted directly on the record. And my objective for them was to understand that you don't need canvas and you don't need to be a professional to make beautiful painted art. And as you can see with the pictures, I think they were successful with their beautiful painted vinyl records.
Okay, so the last one I'm going to highlight is these adorable sock gnomes. Now, I can't take full credit for this program. My coworker, Jen Ripka, and I worked on this one. My target audience, again, for this wasn't a specific age group, but it was kind of like trendy crafters. I was seeing a lot of gnomes pop up in stores as home decor. And so we thought, like, we could recreate this in the library for people. Again, we did this weekday mid-morning, and this was probably like a medium-sized class that we held. So the first one that I talked about, the folded book art, that was a large scale, about 50 people. The spa day was about 10 people, and this was about 20, so about a medium-sized scale of attendees. Now, as far as the supply cost goes, this was pretty inexpensive at about $1.50 a person. The expense really came in with the fuzzy socks that we actually got from the dollar store. We do a lot of dollar store shopping around here. Pom-poms, fur from a fabric store, rice is really cheap, and then hot glue gun and glue as well, which we already had on hand. Now, the cardboard cones, as you can see, one of the gnomes has a hat that stands up, so that was optional for that. And then with the gnomes as well, I had done that for a virtual program, and that was easy and simple and nice to do at home because, again, a lot of people had rice on hand. I actually used children's socks for that one at home, and it turned out really cute. So as far as the learning objectives went for that, again, I was just trying to show people, like, you can create really, really cute things for your house very inexpensively. Like, you don't have to go out to the store and buy it. Like, come to the library and craft with us and program. So.
Well, sorry about the slide malfunction there, everyone. You missed out on seeing the fuzzy, beautiful gnomes for the full length. Sorry about that. Anyways, so I did a DIY dino terrarium. I happen to be a huge fan of anything that's like teeny tiny when it's normally gigantic, like a dinosaur is huge. But little dinos are teeny tiny and they're so fun. So not having the best green thumb, I wanted to do some sort of like planting-esque thing that didn't actually require anything to stay alive. So we have our plastic dinos. Again, this was really targeted for a younger audience, 20s and 30s, and naming it DIY Dino Terrarium, I definitely think people knew what they were getting into when they walked in the door. Again, it was in the evening for that after work crowd. This one was a bit more expensive because they did have to buy the glass jar homes for our new dinos. The tiny dinos, lava rocks, dirt moss, also all needed to be purchased. But I was able to find deals on getting a massive quantity because I planned for 20 people to come to this program. Really my objective was for people to just have fun. They're really not learning a huge skill since, you know, they're not actually planning for the dinos to live in their terrariums. But I did want people to have the ability to make social connections while doing something kind of silly. Often is the case, everything in life is so serious, and this is just a fun way to not be so serious. So with that, hopefully you all have learned how to create programs with confidence, how to promote your library services through the community or to the community through adult programming, and you have these handy dandy handouts that you can replicate these successful programs Becky and I have shared with you for really any size library and honestly any size age group or any target audience. So we do have a few minutes for questions, and please feel free to enter them into the chat. If you do have any additional questions or that you think of later or need to bounce ideas or brainstorm off with someone, please don't hesitate to reach out to Becky or I. Our contact information is on the screen and we are happy to help. So there was a question about the pair. It was not a program. I needed a thank you and just kind of created my thank you pair out of fruits and vegetables instead of a cupcake. I thought he was adorable.
It's so cute. I think I'm going to do that at home with my son.
Looks like, Becky, there's a question for you of where is the link to the paper flower wreath on your website?
If you go in under virtual programming, you should be able to find it there. It's probably, I mean, you're probably going to have to scroll a while because it was one of the first ones we did. You can also go to our YouTube page. So if you go all the way down to the bottom on our home page, you can find our YouTube page there and you should be able to find it. Again, you're probably going to have to do a lot of scrolling because there's a lot of virtual programming on there. It's one of the ones towards the beginning.
Let's see, it looks like there was a question about weaving using magazine books. I think that was an idea another participant had. So, I mean, you can definitely explore. I know often if I'm not sure how to do a craft, I'll do research online to see if there are other people who may have done a similar craft and can I use those same skills to apply it to what I want to do. So maybe you could look at seeing how to do like beginner's weaving, and then apply it for magazines.
Yeah, and I think too, with that one, that would be a great question to ask on that Facebook page that we spoke about. I'm sure you'd get lots of ideas, and I would look at Pinterest as well.
Let's see. There was a question about, have you had programs that were not well attended, and did you decide to change your approach going forward in any way, or do you just assume there will be hits and misses? I always assume there's going to be hits and misses, although generally when it comes to crafting programs, they're pretty much always a hit. At least in Naperville, we have a very strong crafting community. It's much more for like maybe tech programs or informational programs that can sometimes be on the miss side. But honestly, I think with our virtual climate, if anything, now is the time to experiment more. Because people aren't having to come into the building, there may be less staff time involved, and regardless, you'll have a recording of it, so you can always share it again later.
Yeah, and sometimes with programs too, you know, maybe it just wasn't the right time of day, and you could try it again, like on a weekend or, you know, at night, and maybe you're just not quite hitting the target audience. But again, I do a lot of the craft programming, and so we have a core group that comes to that. So, any more questions?
I somehow can't. There was a question if we could put the thank you pair up again, but I can't get my PowerPoint to go backwards.
No.
So I will share it with the Reaching Forward people so that we can get it sent out to all the participants to get the image of that thank you pair. Because I do agree, he is adorable.
He's very cute. We all need to make a thank you pair.
It looks like also the chat is saved with the recording, so you can always go back and look at the comments. If you saw someone else brainstormed a great idea and you couldn't remember exactly what it was, scroll back to find it. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I know I had a good time. Hopefully, Becky, you had a good time.
Yeah, did.
And like I said, if you all do find that you're like, I want to do this thing and I don't know how to make it work, please don't hesitate to email Becky or I. We are always happy to help talk logistics and brainstorming for programming. It's one of the fun parts of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Becky and Shoshana. This was so much fun. It was practical, it was entertaining, and I know lots of us are going to be looking for lots of programming ideas to keep us going this summer. I love that you highlighted ones that you had made virtual. You know, I know lots of libraries are looking at doing virtual programming, either just virtual or a mix with having, and being able to see some of these programs as opportunities for ones that we can do virtually is really, really helpful. So thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We had a great time.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. The recording should be up, if not today, then tomorrow, very shortly. And have a great rest of your afternoon and a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.